Hi, this is Joe Bates, and welcome back to the Appraisal Toolbox. Today we are going to cover a topic that comes out of our skill sharpener set, and this particular problem deals with the use of our practice problems to solve a cap rate. And the solving or development of a cap rate that we're going to do today is by using what's known as the band of investment mortgage equity technique. Now, our skill sharpener resources are a series of practice problems that are divided into categories. And we've got, as you can see on the screen now, a category called 6 Functions of One, where all the problems deal with all the various functions and formulas dealing with 6 functions of one and their applications in the appraisal profession. We also have all kinds of math problems and algebra dealing with percentage, change in percentage, change in value over time problems. And then we also have quite a bit of material dealing with the development of cap rates. Now, the cap rate problem that we're going to deal with today is the mortgage equity or band of investment cap rate. And before we get into that, let's take a quick look at what the cap rate is and what the band of investment technique is. Now, the cap rate, the overall cap rate for a property, can be explained as the weighted average of the cap rate for the mortgage and the cap rate for the equity. So if we're able to develop, or if we are provided the cap rates for the two portions, and we know what percentage of value the mortgage and the equity each are as far as the whole property value, then we can come up with this weighted average or this band of investment cap rate. Now, this session today assumes that you have some familiarity with developing cap rates by mortgage equity and you understand the concepts. So this really is not as much the instruction on developing cap rates or how to develop them as much as it is to introduce you to these practice problems for the repetitious practice of problem solving for cap rates. Okay, so let's take a look at the mortgage equity cap rate button here. And if we go ahead and click that, it's going to take us to a screen that has some inputs and some information, as well as a question about a cap rate you're asked to solve. Now, in this particular problem, you are given some variables or some information that is used to solve the cap rate by the mortgage equity technique. And you are asked, what is the band of investment technique cap rate? And we are going to show you that once you work through that process, again, assuming you are familiar with it, and if not, go to back to our website. We've got all kinds of videos and information dealing with the instruction of how to develop these cap rates. But assuming you know how, you go ahead and practice with this set of variables or try to solve it, and then we can come over here and click this button that says go to the solutions. And if we do that, you're going to see that the information that we were given about the cap rate as far as the variables. So if we go up here, those are the same variables that you were given on the previous page. And now we are also presented some of the information involved with solving these cap rates. So if you remember the formulas or the weighted average, you know you need a cap rate for the mortgage and you need a cap rate for the equity. Those are the two components that we have to develop, or the two cap rates that we have to develop in order to come up with the weighted average for the total property cap rate. Now, when you look at these solution pages, you're going to find a number of things, including some very helpful information showing how this is solved through Excel, how we extract out from the problem variables that are provided. Various calculations, including how many compounding periods there are, what's the periodic interest rate, what's the total number of periods, what's the mortgage cap rate. And if we did all of that and went through that process, Excel can develop this for us, and these are the worksheets that you will be provided at the end of this session. But you'll see that the property cap rate using the band of investment technique is 7.2%. Now, because of the information you're provided for this problem, for these variables up here, you weren't given the information directly regarding the cap rate for the mortgage. You were given the equity cap rate, and you were given the percentage of value for the mortgage, so you also now know the percentage of value for the equity. But the one component we don't know, or we aren't provided directly, is the mortgage cap rate for the weighted average. However, based on the information you were provided, we can develop the cap rate for the mortgage, which is what? The same as the annual debt service for the loan, assuming the loan is $1. So if we put $1 into our calculator and we know the mortgage terms, we can come up with the mortgage constant or the mortgage cap rate. And that's exactly what this section of the solution page is doing. This is showing that if you entered $1 into the PV register to represent a loan of $1, and you have your number of periods and your interest rate, and you make them or you convert them to the appropriate periodic interest rate and number of periods, you can solve for the payment or what? The periodic payment. And in this case, because this is a quarterly problem, you would have to take that payment and you would then have to what? Multiply it by 4 to come up with the annual debt service for $1, which is the mortgage constant or the mortgage cap rate. Now, once you develop the mortgage cap rate, you simply plug it in there. And again, you are provided the 250% or what? The ratios of value for the mortgage and equity. And you are also provided the 1.5% equity cap rate. So as soon as you use the calculator to develop the mortgage constant, you can plug it in to the formula, and then you can calculate out the two components, come up with their cap rates, add them together, and you have the property cap rate. Okay, so assuming you're familiar with how to solve the mortgage equity cap rate, again, this presentation is to introduce you to these resources where you can have numerous, almost limitless number of problems to practice solving that mortgage equity cap rate. Now, one of the things you need to be aware of when you're dealing with our spreadsheets here at the Appraisal Toolbox is we do not use macros to solve any of our formulas or for any of our automated features in Excel. And without going into a big spiel about them, it's simply because there are so many versions of Excel we found that some of our users are using that the macros sometimes have conflicts with different versions and with security and network settings, etc. So we have avoided using any macros. However, you can have the ability with our worksheets to change the factors or the variables to solve a different problem. And we do that by using the F9 key. So let's go back for the moment by hitting this button down here to go back to the mortgage equity cap rate screen. And this time, let's take a look at what happens when we press the function F9 or F9 button. If we were to press that and watch up here what happens to our variables, each time I press the button, a new set of variables come up. So I can practice these problems, and if I'm looking for to have additional work for monthly problems, I can go ahead and just keep scrolling through until I see a monthly problem. Oh, there's one that involves a 20-year mortgage at a 60% loan to value. So, okay, I'll solve that one. And I can work through that problem. I can go to the solution page, and of course that same problem is up on the screen. I can see the keystrokes once again for the mortgage constant, and of course the mortgage equity weighted average percentages multiplied out. And of course, by going back to the screen, which is the home page for these mortgage equity cap rates, I can go ahead and use the F9 button and just scroll through and pick another problem or two. So there's many, many problems to choose from. That allows you the repetition of solving problems over and over until you feel comfortable and confident you're able to do this on your own. And once you're finished selecting and applying the mortgage equity cap rate formulas to solve for the problem, you can go ahead and go back to the main menu, which is our resources, where you can pick another kind of problem to practice. So hopefully you found this helpful, and go check out our website so you can have access. If you sign up as a member, you'll have access to these resources under the Skill Sharpener set, and you'll see that we've got all kinds of problems, and watch for videos coming out on some of the other topics as we'll walk through some of those as well.